was by the way of immigration. Everyone has a different timeline in their own history, whether it's Ireland, whether it's Germany, whether it's Mexico, Japan, China, wherever you come from on the face of this earth. We just have a different timeline, how we got to this country, which is the greatest on earth, no question about it. What confounds me sometimes is the standard for how we view immigration and how it appears to differ depending on whom we're talking about specifically and how far past we go with regards to immigration and when it occurred and how we got to the shores of this great country. I would say that some people, without a doubt, emphatically pledge to the red, white, and blue, but oftentimes see life through the prism of just black and white. It's a world of absolutes, and there's a lot more complexity to this issue. I think that some people demand that we export our brand of freedom around the world, yet recoil in horror at the thought of the import of people drawn to it. Many love to hold out the USA, our great country, and it is, again, the greatest on earth, as a model democracy, yet are confused when people risk their lives to become part of it. That adds a lot of the complexity to, again, to this very polarizing issue. Imagine, if you will, a young all-American girl. She's 9 years old, and she leads the Pledge of Allegiance in her class every single day. Then come July 4th, when we have our Independence Parade, she's at the head of the parade, twirling her baton, walking proudly with her head up, because she knows no other country. She knows no other Pledge of Allegiance. She knows no other loyalty. And again, that's what makes ours the greatest on the face of this earth. As Mr. Juan Vargas articulated, as well as Senator Ron Calderon, these individuals know no other country. This is their country, the land of the home, the brave, and the free. And they are proud Americans, although we understand, technically speaking, they don't possess a card that says, I am a citizen of the United States of America. When you see these young men and women, and I know a handful of them because where I grew up, obviously, in my neighborhood of Logan Heights in San Diego, as well as the area that I represent in Los Angeles, paint their faces red, white, and blue during the course of the independence, or proudly recite the 13 colonies and emphasize that Rhode Island, that was established by then King Charles II to establish a territory free of religious persecution. When you hear a 9-year-old girl articulate that, it's quite amazing. And that's why this is, in my estimation, a very proud moment. I want to thank Senator Cedillo for his dogged determination and for his commitment to this very important issue. Mr. Calderon, thank you for leading the charge on the Senate side. And colleagues, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Further debate or discussion? Senator Correa on this item.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, I rise in strong support of this measure. You know, I represent Central Orange County, and many refer to Central Orange County, given the changes that we've had, as a new Ellis Island of the United States. In Central Orange County, we have immigrants from all over the world, folks coming to America to work hard, to earn a living, and to earn the American dream. And if you think about who we're talking about today in this, under this measure, those students that will benefit from this measure are the folks that will help lead America in the next technological revolution, the next economic boom. These are kids, these are students eager to study, to work hard. So I say to you that this is nothing more than a common sense measure looking to benefit and to strengthen this great country. I ask for an aye vote.
Members, is there further debate or discussion on this item? Senator Ted Lieu.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. So recently we had royalty from England visit us in California, but in California we don't have royalty. And that's because in America we do not believe we should attribute to children what their parents' status is or what they may or may not have done. We judge children based on their individual merits. We do not raise you up, nor do we put you down based on your background or your parents or your bloodline. This bill and the subsequent one is rooted in the deepest of American traditions, one of individual self-determination, individual freedom, individual merit. Respectfully request, and I vote.
Senator Ahlquist.
Thank you. It is with pleasure that I rise to speak in support of AB 130. I had been a principal co-author of the original AB 540 legislation and chair of the Assembly Higher Education Committee at that time. The bill had been defeated the previous year. I was happy to lend my support as the daughter of an immigrant, a Greek immigrant. I'm not a Latina, although some in my district will say I have the heart of a Latina. And what I really want to say is, as the daughter of an immigrant and having two daughter-in-laws who are both immigrants, I believe America is a place that still ought to be welcoming all people, and that California has benefited from the immigrants who have come here. We are talking about our future. We are talking about these beautiful students who do very well in school and want to go and get a higher education degree. We're talking about non-state funds that will be used, particularly for AB 130. And it's imperative, if we want the California of our future to be what we hope it will be, it's important for us to support students who want to become educated and who want to contribute to this fine state. I urge your support.
Members, is there further debate or discussion on this item? Senator Steinberg.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. There are some measures that come to our floor that compel me as your leader to stand up and speak, and this is one of them, because this is fundamentally a civil rights bill. And while we have our partisan differences on many, many things, this bill should not be a party line bill. I know. And it may not be. I hope it is not. If you're for equal opportunity, you should vote for the DREAM Act. If you believe in higher education, you should vote for the DREAM Act. If you believe that we need more educated and trained people to enter our 21st century economy, you should vote for the DREAM Act. And if you dream that your children or grandchildren should have every opportunity to fulfill their God-given potential, then you must vote for the DREAM Act. The arc of history bends forward, not backwards. This should not be a party line vote. This is a bill about California, its great strength, and the opportunities that we speak of so often on this floor. I urge an aye vote.
Senator Calderon, you may close.
Thank you to all my colleagues for the debate, for all your support for this measure. Let's make the DREAM Act a reality. I ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Ahlquist. Aye. Anderson. No. Berryhill? Blakesley? No. Calderon? Aye. Canella? Aye. Corbett? Aye. Correa? Aye. De Leon? Aye. DeSaulnier? Aye. Dutton? No. Emerson? Evans? Aye. Fuller? No. Gaines? No. Hancock? Aye. Harmon? Hernandez? Aye. Huff? No. Kehoe? Aye. LaMalfa? No. Leno? Aye. Ted Lieu? Aye. Carol Lieu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Negrete McLeod? Aye. Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Price? Aye. Rubio? Aye. Runner? Semidian? Aye. Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? No. Vargas? Aye. Walters? No. Wolk? Wright? Aye. Wyland? No. Yee? Yee, aye.
Mr. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Berryhill? Emerson? Harmon? Runner? Wolk?
Mr. Secretary, please call the absent members. All right. Mr. Secretary, the floor manager, Senator Calderon, has asked that we move a call. We will move a call and place this item on call while we take up other business here in the Senate. Members, the item remains on call. Mindful of the hour, we're going to move to unfinished business. We are still on consideration of the daily file, but we are moving from the Assembly third reading file to the unfinished business file. These are items 9 through 24, members. Let's go to items 9 through 24, beginning with file item 9 on the Senate daily file. Senator Pavley, are you prepared to take up this item? Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Joint Resolution 3 by Senator Pavley relative to toxic substances control.
Yes, members, Mr. President, this is back to us for concurrence and Assembly amendments. California is joining many other states, in fact, 11 of them, including Texas and Illinois and Georgia and Iowa, and the list goes on, joining together to encourage Congress to reform the Toxic Substances Control Act of 1976. This federal act has not been updated for 35 years. It was passed in 1976. This resolution simply encourages Congress to look at it once again and make sure we're doing the most to protect the health and safety, particularly of our children. I ask for your aye vote and concurrence in Assembly amendments.
Further debate or discussion? Further debate or discussion? Members, is there any objection to substituting our unanimous roll call on this item? There is. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Alquist? Aye. Anderson? No. Berryhill? No. Blakesley? No. Calderon? Aye. Canella? No. Corbett? Aye. Correa? De Leon? Aye. DeSaulnier? Aye. Dutton? No. Emerson? No. Evans? Aye. Fuller? No. Gaines? No. Hancock? Aye. Harmon? Hernandez? Aye. Huff? No. Kehoe? Aye. LaMalfa? No. Leno? Aye. Ted Lieu? Aye. Carol Lieu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Negrete McLeod? Aye. Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Price? Aye. Rubio? Aye. Runner? No. Semidian? Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? Vargas? Aye. Walters? No. Wolk? Wright? Aye. Wyland? No. Yee? Yee, aye. Semidian, aye. Correa, no.
Ayes 23, noes 14. Assembly amendments are concurred in. Moving on, members, file item 10. Senator Evans, pass. File item 11. File item 12, Senator Padilla. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 39 by Senator Padilla, an act relating to alcoholic beverages.
Thank you very much. Members, request your aye vote on concurrence for SB 39, which would place into law prohibition on the manufacturing, importation, and sale of caffeinated beer beverages in the state of California. Most of us are all too familiar with tragic news stories about underage drinkers being rushed to the hospital after partying with these beverages. With this bill, California would join a growing list of states, including Massachusetts, New York, Washington, 26. Utah, Michigan, Connecticut, Ohio, and Kansas in instituting such a ban. Assembly amendments merely clarified the intent of this bill. It's enjoyed bipartisan support. I ask for aye vote.
Any discussion or debate on this matter? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. No. Berryhill. Blakesley. No. Calderon. Aye. Canella. No. Corbett. Aye. Correa. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. Emerson. Evans. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. No. Kehoe. Aye. LaMalfa. No. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Aye. Carol Lieu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price.
Aye.
Aye. Rubio. Aye. Runner. Semidian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. No. Vargas. Aye. Walters. No. Wolk. Wright. Aye. Wyland. No. Yee. Yee. Aye. Correa. Aye. Emerson. Aye.
Call the absent members.
Berryhill. No. Dutton. No. Harmon. Runner. Wolk.
Ayes 25, noes 12. The bill is passed. Forgive me, Assembly amendments are concurred in. File item 13. Senator Carol Lieu, are you prepared to take this item up? Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 62 by Senator Lieu, an act relating to local government.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I ask for your aye vote on concurrence for SB 62. This is a district bill to prevent property sale fraud and protect homeowners and renters in Los Angeles County. When the county records a notice of default or a notice of sale for a home, the property resident will receive a timely warning in the mail. The bill is sponsored by LA County Board of Supervisors. This legislation has extensive support from consumer groups and law enforcement and has no opposition. Amendments in the Assembly deleted 2 phrases to clarify how the notices are processed, and another amendment specified that the county recorder can deduct administrative costs. The bill passed the Senate 28-11 in May, and I ask for your vote in concurrence.
Debate or discussion? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Mr. Secretary, call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. No. Berryhill. Aye. Blakesley. Calderon. Aye. Canella. Aye. Corbett. Aye. Correa. No. De Leon. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. Emerson. Aye. Evans. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. Aye. Kehoe. Aye. LaMalfa. No. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Aye. Carol Lieu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Rubio. I. Runner. Smidian. I. Steinberg. I. Strickland. No. Vargas. I. Walters. No. Wolk. Wright. I. Wyland. No. Yee. Yee, aye.
Ayes 24, noes 7. The amendments are concurred in. Forgive me, folks, but once the vote is being announced, thank you. It is the custom and practice of the presiding officer to ask for members who were absent to be called. In that case, the presiding officer was attempting to move the agenda along so that the many members who've approached us about the speed of the session could be accommodated. For the remainder of the day, the presiding officer will, however, ensure that there is at least one call for absent members to ensure that no member is left out. The amendments are concurred in. We are now on to file item 14. Senator Leno, do I understand you're taking this matter up? Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 79 by the Committee on Budget and Fiscal Review and Act relating to state finance and making an appropriation therefore to take effect immediately be related to the budget.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this is our cash management trailer bill. As we're all well aware, most of our income comes in the springtime, and many of our highest spending months come in July, August, September, the beginning of our fiscal year. It's traditional that our treasurer goes to market to sell either revenue anticipation notes, known as RANs, which allows a lower interest rate for us because we pay RANs back within the same fiscal year, or goes to market to sell RAWs, revenue anticipation warrants, which have a slightly higher interest rate. This bill is designed to save us cash borrowing costs. It does so by creating a special fund to receive voluntary, let me emphasize that, voluntary contributions from the University of California, from the California State University system, or from other state entities that are not required to use the pooled money investment account. So again, voluntary contribution. Should folks at the University of California or CSU with a fiduciary responsibility to get the best return on their investment, and they've got about $1 billion that they could potentially lend to us. Of course, they're going to want to be able to get at least, if not better, a return than they could get in the open market. We, of course, would only be interested if we can get something lower than we can get in the open market. All of this is voluntary. Should it work out, and negotiations are ongoing currently, we can lower our cash borrowing costs. Now, we had a very healthy discussion in the Budget Committee hearing today, and Senator Huff raised some very good questions with regard to whether, should this actually happen, and that is conjecture at this point, but should it actually happen, whether that which we would potentially borrow from these other state entities would be paid back within the same fiscal year. It's a good question, but it also calls the question that it's not whether we pay back within the same fiscal year, which we can do with RANs or not with RAWs, but whether this will be cash flow borrowing or budget borrowing. Budget borrowing would increase our ongoing deficit. And we got clear clarification. Can you get clear clarification or any other kind of clarification from the Department of Finance, from the Treasurer, from the Controller, that whether or not it is paid back within the same fiscal year, this will not be budget borrowing. And I thank Senator Huff for identifying that concern. So again, the only reason for this is to lower our cash borrowing costs. Again, a difference between cash borrowing, that's for cash flow purposes, independent of the budget. Then there is budget borrowing, which we have sometimes done through the budget process. This is not that. Just to give a quote from the University of California, Mr. Juarez was there to present today. He said, quote, "We have made no decisions as to what we may or may not do. Clearly, if this benefits the university and these other state entities, they may enter into an agreement with us. If it does not, they have a fiduciary responsibility. They probably won't." Again, if you have an interest in lowering the cash borrowing costs that we will incur with or without this bill, If you want to lower those costs, I ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Senator Huff.
Thank you, Mr. President. The hearing was instrumental in helping to clarify some of the issues that pop out of this, but one that never really was fully addressed is we have public statements from the Treasurer saying that the budget is financeable, and we have often had cash flow problems in the summertime. That's not our issue this year. There are no commitments by the university. There's probably going to be some other language cleaning this up. And I think one of the fundamental issues that troubles me is under the new umbrella of Prop 25, as an institution, we seem to be pushing things through on partisan votes when in the past it's been collaborative. When in the past it's been bipartisan, looking for solutions to manage common problems. And yet we have a series of things being rushed through without proper scrutiny, or shall I say without Republican scrutiny, which we would call that as part of proper. And so this falls into that situation. If it's truly for cash flow issues, and more flexibility is a good thing, there's no question. But if it's truly for that, then why didn't we limit it to the same type of language that Iran has, where it's within the same fiscal year? Instead, we had to go through a painful process of exacting comments from the various stakeholders that it would not be budgetary borrowing, it would not be using to kick the can down the road. But the way this language reads, it could be. You could push this from fiscal year to another fiscal year, and that would certainly fly in the face of what we have all said that we're trying to do with this. And so I'm still a little concerned about that. One issue I did fail to raise in committee, and it was my fault, this language also allows interest rates up to 11%. Now, that would be very difficult to score a cost savings. The university right now is investing somewhere around 2%. We're offering them something through this at about 1.5%. I'm still not seeing the wisdom in that, but I'm sure they'll figure that out before they put some money up for us to be able to borrow. There's a lot of other good discussion that went on. I'm still not able to support this, but it was at least a clarifying committee hearing. Thank you.
Further debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Senator Leno, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. President. With regard to Senator Huff's comments regarding process, point well taken. With regard to whether or not, whatever this agreement may or may not end up to be, whether we pay this potential loan back within the same fiscal year is really irrelevant, as we already use, as I mentioned, the instrument of RAWS, which we don't pay back in the same fiscal year, for cash flow borrowing. This would be not unlike that should it occur in that fashion. But absolutely, unequivocally, this will not be budget borrowing, which we could not do and will not do. I ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. No. Berryhill. No. Blakesley. No. Calderon. Aye. Canella. No. Corbett. Aye. Correa. De Leon. Aye. DeSagne. Aye. Dutton. No. Emerson. No. Evans. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. No. Kehoe. Aye. LaMalfa. Leno. Aye. Tedlew. Aye. Carol Liu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Runner. No. Semidian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. No. Vargas. Aye. Walters. No. Wolk. No. Wright. Aye. Wyland. No. Yee. Yee, aye. LaMalfa, no.
Call the absent members.
Correa. Harmon.
Ayes 23, noes 15. The amendments are concurred in. Senator Calderon, for what purpose do you rise, sir?
I lift the call on item 148.
Mr. Secretary, please lift the call on file item 148 and call the absent members.
Berryhill. Emerson. Harmon. Runner. No. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Ayes 26, noes 11. The bill is passed. Members, we return now to file item 15. Senator Leno, I believe you're prepared to take this up. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 93 by the Committee on Budget and Fiscal Review and Act relating to Health and Human Services and making an appropriation therefore to take effect immediately. Bill related to the budget.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is our Human Services trailer bill, and as was acknowledged in our Budget Committee hearing, is a purely technical trailer bill, and it is with regard to the trigger system that we set up. Should the anticipated revenue not be realized by December, January of the coming months, the first trigger is pulled. Should we fall $1 billion or more below the projected revenue, those are Tier 1 cuts, and they are mostly human services cuts with adjustment to community colleges as well. If we fall $2 billion or more below revenue projections, the second trigger will be pulled, and those are the second tier of cuts. With regard to the potential reduction in hours of service for in-home support services, it was inadvertently omitted that should the trigger be pulled for Tier 1, that's when those reductions to IHSS would occur. Just clarifying that IHSS service reductions are Tier 1 trigger cuts. That's all this bill does. Clears up that inadvertent omission. I ask for your I vote.
Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. Berryhill. No. Blakesley. No. Calderon. Aye. Cannella. No. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Aye. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. No. Emerson. No. Evans. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. No. Kehoe. Aye. LaMalfa. No. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Aye. Carol Lieu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Runner. No. Semidian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. No. Vargas. Aye. Walters. No. Wolk. Wright. Aye. Wyland. No. Yee. Yee. Aye.
Ayes 24, noes 13. Please call the absent members.
Anderson. No. Harmon. Wolk.
Ayes 24, noes 14. The bill is passed. Members, mindful of the hour, we are preparing to move to the supplemental file where we have 3 items, and that will conclude our business for the day, in addition to motions and resolutions and adjourn in memories. So, members, if we could have quiet in the chamber, please. Sergeant at Arms, could you determine the source of the noise in the chamber and try and do something about that for the members, please? Thank you. We have item 232. This is Senator Leno. Are you prepared to take up this item? File item 232. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 91 by the Committee on Budget and Fiscal Review and Act relating to adult day health care and making an appropriation therefore to take effect immediately. Bill related to the budget.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, so this is the technical changes for licensing of adult day health care trailer bill. You may remember that we, in June, eliminated adult day health care as we know it, and as a result, it is no longer a Medi-Cal optional benefit. Current law requires that to be licensed, adult day health care centers must be certified as Medi-Cal providers. But we no longer have adult day health care as a Medi-Cal optional benefit. For adult day health care centers to continue to provide services to our seniors in this new world when it's no longer a Medi-Cal optional benefit, we want to allow these operators that will survive this transition to be able to have clients who are no longer Medi-Cal beneficiaries. And so we need to delink the certification for Medi-Cal and the licensing for adult day health care. This allows for that delinkage and then will allow for these operators to enroll non-Medi-Cal participants. That's all it does. If you support the future of a reduced adult day health care center services in California, if you think that it's appropriate that operators should be able to take non-Medi-Cal participants, these would be private payers, for example, then you would support this bill. I ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Senator Huff.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Once again, this bill is operating under the umbrella of Prop 25. But the requirement of that is that a bill provide an appropriation related to the budget bill. So we have in here $1,000 appropriated that's window dressing because nothing in this bill is necessary to implement the budget. The bill is a solution in search of a problem. Again, for all the reasons stipulated before, while this may be good on the policy, and certainly we need to do something about adult day health care, this was not a collaborative effort, and I would urge a no vote.
Is there further debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing, forgive me, Senator Ahlquist.
Thank you, Mr. President. ADHC is a really important program for all seniors, those who can qualify for Medi-Cal, and those who are private pay. By voting for this bill, this will be the only way that we can see that people who are private pay can participate. I urge an aye vote.
Is there further debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Senator Leno, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Ahlquist, for underscoring the importance of adult day health care. I think we all were pained when we realized we had to cut the program in half from 170 million general fund dollars down to 85 million general fund dollars. Still matchable $1 for $1 with the federal government through a waiver. The administration is committed to that ongoing $170 million funding. We just received a letter from the director of the Department of Health Care Services today. Director Toby Douglas has written to us to say,
Senator Leno, one moment, please. Members, we are close to finishing the agenda of the day. If we could ask for cooperation from members, we'll move along a little more quickly. Please conclude, Senator Leno.
Thank you. I will be brief. I know everyone's eager to get on with the weekend and the weeks to come. Just very briefly, Toby Douglas has told us that he is extending the adult day health care benefit beyond September 1, which is what we had decided in our vote to eliminate adult day health care, for a time-limited basis and based on anticipated federal financial participation to allow the beneficiaries to continue to live independently, avoid a potential risk of institutionalization, and to ensure a smooth transition to other services when benefit is eliminated. I will continue to assess the need to extend the benefit on a month-to-month basis. That is very important, and so that these operators can survive by taking these non-Medi-Cal participants, meaning private payers. We need this bill in place. This is not a solution, a problem, a solution in search of a problem. It is a problem with a solution solved in this bill. I ask for your aye vote.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Ahlquist. Aye. Anderson. No Berryhill. No Blakesley. No Calderon. Aye Canella. No Corbett. Aye Correa. Aye De Leon. Aye DeSaulnier. Aye Dutton. No Emerson. No Evans. Aye Fuller. No Gaines. No Hancock. Aye Harmon. Hernandez. Aye Huff. No Kehoe. Aye LaMalfa. No Leno. Aye Ted Lieu. Aye Carol Lieu. Aye Lowenthal. Aye Negrete McLeod. Aye Padilla. Aye Pavley. Price. Aye Rubio. Aye Runner. No. Smidian. Aye Steinberg. Aye Strickland. No Vargas. Aye Walters. No Wolk. Wright. Aye Wyland. No Yee. Yee aye. Pavley aye.
Mr. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Harmon. Wolk.
Ayes 24, noes 14. The amendments are concurred in. Members, that takes us to the next item on the supplemental file, which is file item 233. Senator Kehoe, you are prepared to present, and we will ask the Secretary to please read.
Senate Bill 614 by Senator Kehoe, enacting to immunization and declaring the urge thereof to take effect immediately.
Good afternoon, members. This is on the pertussis immunization. SB 614 is an urgency measure. It gives all California public schools a 30-day grace period to immunize their 7th through 12th graders. The schools are now, due to summer recess and other concerns or other challenges, they're 50% or less of the immunization rate they should be. Students are returning to school right now, if it's year-round, or they will be shortly on the regular school year. So the bill has a couple of important purposes. First of all, public health. As the children go back to school, this is a contagious disease. They may become ill, and more importantly, they may make a younger sibling ill at home. All the 10 deaths last year were very young children, only a few months old, but they catch it from their school-age brothers and sisters. So we want to do that. The schools will also not be able to let the children go to class if they're not immunized, so they'll lose, in some cases, the larger districts, more than $100,000 a day in ADA. And there'll be serious educational implications and logistics information if a child is sent home as soon as he or she gets in the classroom at the beginning of the day. There's no bus return. The parents may already be at work. The child may have no way to get back to the house. So we need to do this. It will give each school 30 days from the first day of school to get their immunization rates up. They're working with partners in the community to get the shots out. School districts are asking for this. Passed out a Senate Health Committee this morning, 8 votes to 0. I would ask for your aye vote.
Members, is there debate or discussion on this item? Debate or discussion? Is there any objection to substituting the unanimous roll call? Seeing and hearing none, ayes 38, noes 0 on the concurrence. Excuse me, on the urgency, ayes 38, noes 0 on the concurrence with amendments. Thank you, Senator Kehoe. Senator Padilla, for what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, at the request of the author, I'd like to pull item 229, AB 1074, from special consent.
Thank you. Without objection. Senator Wyland, I believe you are prepared to take up file item 234. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 274 by Senator Wyland, enacting to healing arts and declaring the urge thereof to take effect immediately.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, SB 274 makes technical changes for licensed professional clinical counselors in the BNP law. It's had nothing but aye votes. Urge your passage of this measure.
Debate or discussion? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Members, is there any objection to substituting our unanimous roll call on this item? Any objection to substituting the unanimous roll call on this item? Seeing and hearing none. Ayes 38, noes 0 on the concurrence. Forgive me. Ayes 38, noes 0 on the urgency. Ayes 38, noes 0 on the concurrence with Assembly amendments. The measure is concurred in. Members, that completes the items on the supplemental file. We do have a few procedural items. Members, if there are items to be removed from the consent calendar or if there is an adjustment to the file, under motions and resolutions, Senator Corbett, for what purpose do you rise?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. At the request of the author for the removal of an item from the consent calendar, that would be item 203, AB 1128 by Assemblymember Furtani.
Could we ask you to repeat that, please?
Yes. Consent calendar, second day, item 203, Assembly Bill 1128 by Assemblymember Furtani. Please remove from the consent calendar.
Are there other procedural matters at this time? Senator Yee, I understand you have one item to take up at this time.
That's correct, Mr. President. It's file item number 21. It's SB 582.
Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 582 by Senator Yee, enacting to transportation.
Mr. President and Senators, amendments taken in Assembly establish the role of Transportation Management Association in the place of employers in determining compliance with the ordinance, prohibit the use of federal planning funds provided to metropolitan planning organizations for the implementation and enforcement of benefit commute ordinance. What this bill will do is to help California improve its air quality by providing incentives to both employers and employees to reach these goals. It authorizes a metropolitan planning organization and a local air district to adopt a regional commute benefit requirement for employers in the region. Essentially, what this bill will do is to provide employers with the flexibility of choose of one of the following, give employees the options to pay for their transit, van pooling, or bicycling expenses with pre-tax dollars, or to offer employees a transit van pool subsidy of $75. And lastly, provide employees with a free shuttle and van pool on behalf of employers. With that, urgent aye vote.
Debate or discussion? Debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. No. Berryhill. No. Blakesley. No. Calderon. Aye. Canella. No. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Aye. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. No. Emerson. Aye. Evans. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Hancock. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. Kehoe. Aye. LaMalfa. No. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Aye. Carol Lieu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Runner. No. Semidian. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. No. Vargas. Aye. Walters. No. Wolk. Wright. Aye. Wyland. No. Yee. Yee, aye.
Please call the absent members.
Harmon. Huff. No. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Semidian.
No.
No. Wolk.
Please call the absent members.
Harmon. Wolk.
Ayes 24, noes 14. The amendments are concurred in. Senator Calderon, for what purpose do you rise?
Request to adjourn in memory.
Please proceed under motions and resolutions.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, today I would like to adjourn in memory of Eliseo Basilio Arañaga, who's a grandfather to one of our district staff members, Michelle Pine. Eliseo was a veteran of the United States Army.
Senator, one moment, please. Members, I know it's been a long day, but Senator Calderon is trying to respect and honor the memory of someone who's recently passed. If we could give him and the bereaving friends and family the courtesy, I know they would appreciate it. Please proceed, Senator.
Eliseo was a veteran of the United States Army and served in World War II from 1941 to 1948. Eliseo always wanted to own his own business, and in 1958 was given an opportunity to purchase an auto parts store in Bell Gardens called Everybody's Auto Supply, which he successfully ran for 41 years. Eliseo was a devoted husband of 64 years to Eva, the proud father of 4 grown children, grandfather of 3, and great-grandfather of 2. He was known to say, "As long as I have my health and my family, I have everything." This belief remained throughout his life. I ask to adjourn in his memory.
Thank you, Senator Calderon. Please share the sympathies of the Senate. Members, I'm going to go next to Senator Fuller, after which I'm going to take up the consent calendar. Members may be mindful of the fact we've not yet voted on the consent calendar. Senator Fuller?
I'd like to adjourn in memory for Joan Swaim, a loving wife, mother, grandmother, teacher, and friend who died Sunday, July 10th in Texas. She was 77. She was born on the family's cotton farm in the outskirts of Bakersfield. Upon the death of her father, 14-year-old Joan and her mother moved to Bakersfield, where she immediately went to work to support the family. She graduated from Bakersfield High School, worked in the 99 Drive-In Theater, and eventually had children in the Bakersfield area. She received her bachelor's degree in education from Fresno State, and after 40 years as a teacher at Bakersfield City Schools, she extended her dedication to her students. She was one that never flinched in giving extras. She brought students home to dinner whenever they needed it and helped in other ways for them if they had financial difficulties. She was a huge reader. She had many, many books and shared them with others. And she did things that were impossible for the daughter of a Dust Bowl immigrants. She was preceded in death by her parents, Earl and Tim, her brother Lloyd, and her husband Harold. She is a woman of extreme loyalty, limitless optimism, and uncommon generosity. Joan was surprisingly reserved, but all who knew her loved her, and they knew that she loved them. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Fuller. Please be sure to convey the sympathies of the Senate to friends and family, and would you bring the name forward to ensure that her memory is properly memorialized. Members, returning to consideration of the daily file, we are at the consent calendar now. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Joint Resolution 8, Assembly Bill 456, 1407, 762, 188. Senate Concurrent Resolution 25.
Without objection. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Alquist. I. Anderson. I. Berryhill. I. Blakesley. I. Calderon. I. Canella. I. Corbett. I. Correa. I. De Leon. I. DeSaulnier. I. Dutton. I. Emerson. I. Evans. I. Fuller. I. Gaines. I. Hancock. I. Harmon. Hernandez. I. Huff. I. Kehoe. I. LaMalfa. I. Leno. I. Ted Lieu. I. Carol Lieu. I. Lowenthal. I. Negrete McLeod. I. Padilla. I. Pavley. Price. I. Rubio. I. Runner. I. Semidian. I. Steinberg. I. Strickland. I. Vargas. I. Walters. I. Wolk. Wright. I. Wyland. I. Yee. Yee, aye.
Call the absent members.
Harmon. Pavley. Wolk.
Ayes 37, noes 0. The consent calendar is approved. Members, returning to motions and resolutions. Senator Gaines.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I just wanted to take this moment to adjourn in memory of Senator Dave Cox. He passed away a year ago as of yesterday. And I think what I've learned over the course of the last several months that I've been here in the Senate was that he really left a great impression, I think, within the Senate. And I've heard so many stories about how hard he worked, how diligent he was at fundraising, that he was a great closer. His background is in the insurance business. He was in the life and health side. I'm property and casualty, but he had a real talent in that regard. He was a hard charger, a hard worker, the sort of guy that would walk door to door asking for support when he was running for office, and of course a leader in the legislature. So just wanted to take an opportunity to recognize that, the great effort and great imprint that he left here in the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator LaMalfa.
I too rise in Dave Cox's memory. Again, a year ago today, he was my mentor when I first arrived in the Assembly in 2002, and always enjoyed his wry comments and very succinct way of making it sound like he had the last word on issues. So I will be carrying SCR 17, which will be National Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, in his memory when we return from our summer working break in the district in his honor. So thank you for his adjournment here today.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Rod Wright.
I too rise in adjourn in memory. My college classmate at Pepperdine, Janice Hahn, was elected to Congress on Tuesday. She lost her mother on Monday. Some of the cynical people suggested, knowing the Hahn family and that her father was a Los Angeles County supervisor, her brother is a former mayor of Los Angeles, that Mrs. Hahn actually voted absentee, so Janice didn't lose the vote. But you'd have to know the Hahn family. As I say, I knew them from Pepperdine. Mrs. Hahn, Ramona Hahn, met her husband, Kenny Hahn, at Pepperdine, where they were both missionaries in the Church of Christ. They were married for the better part of 50 years. Supervisor Hahn passed about 97, 98. But Mrs. Hahn was the glue that held the family together. You would have had to have known her, to have loved her. She kind of sort of kept them together while Supervisor Hahn was out and about. She herself came from a family of missionaries. She got Supervisor Hahn to join her in that pursuit, and as I said, they met at Pepperdine. Always involved in the community as they were in South Los Angeles, where I grew up. When you said the Hahn family, you were talking about someone that had roots that went way back. The Pepperdine that they attended, I always remind people, is the same one that I attended. It was on 79th and Vermont, not to be confused with that beautiful campus that overlooks the Pacific Ocean. We were down the street from USC, but it was a great college. It was a small college, and everyone who knew Ramona Hahn loved her dearly because she truly was a giant in the South Los Angeles community. And I make jokes about it. She was 86 years old. She has grandchildren. Her children were grown. She's enjoyed great success. And as we would say often in my neighborhood, often to be absent from the body is to be present from the Lord. So I do know that in this instance, Mrs. Hahn will be present with the Lord. And so we celebrate 86 years of life that she was granted to us in this passage.
Thank you, Senator Wright, and please convey the condolences of the Senate to friends and family. Senator DeSaulnier. For what purpose, sir?
Mr. President, I too rise to adjourn in memory of Lorette Lee. Shortly after 11 a.m. on June 24th, while conducting Amtrak train number 5 running westbound from Winnemucca to Reno, Nevada, Miss Lee was fatally killed when a semi-truck failed to stop at the grade crossing on Highway 95, killing both Miss Lee, who was a conductor of that train, as well as 5 other passengers. Lorette is survived by her 3 kids, Shannon, Glenna, and Christopher.
She was born in Martinez, California in 1943, moved to Concord in 1988, lived there for over 20 years, and then recently moved to South Lake Tahoe to Senator Gaines' district, and I would ask that the Senate adjourn in her memory.
So ordered, and again, please convey the condolences of the Senate to friends and family of the departed. Senator Emerson, for what purpose do you rise, sir?
Adjourn in memory.
Please proceed.
Yeah. Mr. President and members of the Senate, with sadness that I ask the Senate to adjourn today in the memory of Betty Ford. She passed away at age 93 in Palm Desert. Betty Ford was born in Chicago on April 8, 1918. Having lost her father early in her life, Betty's mother was an inspiration and laid the foundation for her strength and independence. Mrs. Ford was admired for her candor and openness, and quickly became a popular and important facet to the Gerald Ford administration. During his campaign in 1976, it was common to see Ford supporters supporting buttons that proclaimed, "Vote for Betty's husband." Of course, Betty's lasting legacy will forever be her groundbreaking work in substance abuse treatment. After completing her own treatment for chemical dependency, she founded the Betty Ford Center in 1982 in Rancho Mirage. Not satisfied to be another rehab facility, she led the center to become the first licensed addiction hospital in the world. Her interest was in health and welfare of every man and woman who had the courage to walk through the door. She served her community and her country with class and distinction. I know I speak for each of us that Betty Ford will be greatly missed.
Thank you, Senator Emerson. And again, the Senate conveys its sympathies to friends and family and admirers. Senator De Leon, for what purpose do you rise, sir?
Mr. President, I rise to adjourn in memory. Thank you, Mr. President. I rise, colleagues, to adjourn in the memory of Officer Ryan Stringer of the Alhambra Police Department. Officer Ryan Stringer of the Alhambra Police Department was responding to a robbery call on July 10th, just 4 days ago, last Monday, when he was fatally injured in a car accident. He was only 26 years old. During his tenure with the Alhambra Police Department, Officer Stringer worked the Field Services Division, Patrol Section. Officer Stringer grew up and lived in Whittier, California, in Los Angeles County, and is survived by his parents, Sonny and Debbie Stringer, and 4 sisters, Donna, Kristen, Kim, and Dana. As of past Monday, 4 days ago, at the direction of Governor Jerry Brown, our flags out here in the front of the Capitol have been at half-staff in the memory of Officer Stringer. May we adjourn in his memory.
Thank you, Senator De Leon. And Senator De Leon, if we could ask that you bring the name forward to the desk to be sure that the deceased is properly memorialized, and again, we convey our condolences to friends and family. Senator Corbett, for what purpose do you rise, ma'am?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I would also like to make an adjournment motion joined with President Pro Tem. It's with great sadness that I request we adjourn today in the memory of Laura Williams, who passed on July 7th. Many of you probably knew her. Laura was the president of Californians for Disability Rights for over a decade, the oldest and largest membership organization of persons with disabilities in California, and she was a founding member of the IHSS Coalition. Laura was a frequent presence at legislative committee hearings, at meetings of the California Olmstead Advisory Committee and the California Commission on Disability Access, and virtually every other meeting where public policy was crafted, debated, or implemented. Laura was a constant and consistent voice for persons with disabilities, committed to making every part of community life welcoming and fully accessible to all. I was honored to work closely with her on legislation a few years ago, and I was constantly awed by her strenuous and passionate advocacy for her point of view, and even more importantly, for her always respectful manner in which she countered her opposition. Laura was a formidable presence in the disability community and in our legislative community. Her passing is a tremendous loss to her family, her friends, and her colleagues in our institution as well, and to the countless people whose lives are better because of Laura's wisdom and courage, her integrity, her diplomacy, and her fight. I hope you will all join me in adjourning in the memory of Laura Williams, a great leader and a selfless advocate.
Thank you, Senator Corbett. Please convey the sympathies of the Senate to friends and family, as well as thanks for years of service. If we could request that you bring the name forward to the desk, that will ensure that the passing has been properly memorialized. Senator Lowenthal, for what purpose do you rise, sir?
To adjourn in the memory.
Please proceed.
I wish to adjourn in the memory. I'm saddened to talk about Jeffrey Earl Dempsey. Jeffrey was 21 years of age. He was on a skateboard going down a hill. He fell, got up, thought he was okay, but within 24 hours had passed away. All of Long Beach mourns him, and Jeffrey's mother is Anitra Dempsey, who is a city employee and is the staff person to the Long Beach Citizens Police Complaint Commission and worked for many years for the police department. We mourn Jeffrey's loss. He died much too soon.
Thank you, Senator Lowenthal, and if you would convey the sympathies of the Senate, condolences to family and friends, and if we could ask that you bring the name forward to the desk to ensure that the passing is properly memorialized. Senator Steinberg, if there is no other business, the desk is clear. Is there other business, Senator?
No, there is not, Mr. President. Let me just say that in the spirit of our late colleague Dave Cox, who put a premium on punctuality for all who have left these chambers early, the summer recess is canceled. Seriously, we will have a summer recess, which is not something that happens every year, and I think we should take some pride in that fact that the budget is done on time, and I want to wish all my colleagues, the staff, journalists, everybody who works around here some time with family and friends and good work in the district, and we'll come back noon on the 15th of August for the last, not 4 weeks, but 3 weeks and several days, and end this session hopefully with a lot of good work, a lot of advances for the people of California. We'll see you all in several weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Steinberg. Members, the Senate will be in recess until 3:30 p.m., at which time the adjournment motion will be made. We will reconvene Monday, August 15th at noon. Monday, August 15th at noon. For now, we stand in recess.